particularly important. We've got 4 presentations this evening, a little bit of a change of format. We're going to have an hour available for the public to be able to make presentations if they wish from 5 and 6. But bearing in mind that we have no registrations for any speakers, we're going to continue with the meeting as per the agenda. If someone comes in and wishes to speak, we will allow them to speak next. But I think that's the only way we can do this. Under the Act, we must provide that hour. And if people have got the will to come in and speak to us, we should be prepared to listen. I'll open the meeting by acknowledging the Ngadjuri and the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians of the lands and the waters of the Light Regional Council area. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are present today. Attendance, we have no apologies. We have no leave of absence yet. We have no non-attendance. And now we go to confirmation of our confidential minutes of the ordinary council meeting held Tuesday, the 23rd of April. Would someone like to move that those minutes be a true and correct record? Councillor Fabio, thank you. Someone like to second that? Councillor Dean, all those in favour? Those against, that's carried. Thanks, councillors. Our second meeting, where we need confirmation again, is the minutes of the special meeting of council held Tuesday, the 30th of April. The recommendation of the meeting of the special council meeting held 30th of April be confirmed as a true and correct record of that meeting. Someone like to move that way? They were true and correct. Councillor Bill and Councillor Collins. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried. Councillors, we move on now to the communications, and I won't go through too much of mine tonight. I really understand we've got a busy period ahead of us, but I would like to say, I appeared at the 2 Anzac Day ceremonies in both Kapunda and Wasleys, both very special events and great occasions. And I must take my hat off to the little village of Wasleys. They really do something there that's very, very special, and it's come of age, their ceremony, from virtually 2 or 3 people there to quite a large crowd, and very, very professionally put together with a lot of uniforms there as well, plus catapult party and whatever. And believe it or not, sitting there waiting to place the wreath on it, it rained. It rained and I got drenched. Truly, I got drenched. And when the ceremony had finished, it stopped raining. Couldn't believe it. But there you are. But that was Anzac Day, and the Kapunda Anzac ceremony up the top of the hill here was a very well attended event. And thanks, Councillor Fabio and Councillor Dean, for your attendance. And I think Councillor Peter may have been there also. Yeah, you were. Plenty of media interviews this month, heaps, including today with the Stock Journal talking about rural rates, etc. One thing I had the pleasure of doing during the month too, our high school, our Kapunda High School, now you always tend to sing their praises, but they've got a vet training facility there, and you may be aware that the students have been renovating and resurrecting Aringa, the original high school building that was burnt in the fire, severely burnt in the fire, as we know. They've done a wonderful job. They've never dropped their lip. Their spirit is high, and through that vet training, they've put in for a major award, state award for their efforts. And I've acknowledged that in writing a letter of support on behalf of our council here. And quite frankly, I think in writing that letter, I found it easy, and I think they'll win. Something's going to have to be mighty good to knock off what they've done. The attitude of the students, the school staff, and the people. Remember last year that they got our community event of the year when they put in the 100 years of Aringa, and they went ahead after that building had been burnt, and they did that and still won Community Event of the Year. And the students were taking people on guided tours through there, showing them the work that they'd been undertaking. Fantastic effort, and they really deserve to be acknowledged. I've spoken to the Minister on a couple of occasions about that school and whatever, and thanked him sincerely for the very generous contribution that they've made to the renovations. And they are determined to see that building back on and back up in its former glory, and probably more useful inside as well than it was before. SAROC had a board meeting recently in Adelaide, attended that, and also a very interesting meeting with the Gawler River Floodplain Management Authority, along with Kyron. We met the new chair of the authority, along with their CEO David Hitchcock, and we can be very confident the new chair, Lino De Leona, is a highly intelligent gentleman with an extraordinary experience. We've got a bit of work to do as a council to understand what all this stands for, and I think we've been very fortunate over the years. We've had Bill and we've had Andrew Philpott and so forth flying the flag, and Michael recently flying the flag, but I don't think many of us really know much about the Gawler River Authority and what it represents. And there's 6 councils involved, and it's a big investment. It starts off at the Bruce Eastick Dam. What I suggested, we at our last meeting, I think you may recall, resolved not to support the business plan, and that's part of the reason they were here to talk to us about that. Us and Adelaide Hills decided we wouldn't do that. I think we may feel different about it if we revisit this matter by taking a journey, taking some time in a bus to go to the start of the Gawler River, where the Bruce Eastick Dam is, and travel the course of that, meet the people on the way, do all that, find out more about it, what our money is going toward, because I don't think we know. And it didn't surprise me that we've made that decision that we made. It wasn't totally out of the blue, because I don't think we really quite understand it well enough, because it is pretty complicated. And I think Bill and Michael would attest to that. It's a complicated system, and it engages 6 councils, including Playford, and they're all putting in a lot of money, and we're not seeing much for it. Well, we need to, otherwise why be in it? That's what I think we resolved. But I think once we get a better hold on it by doing a tour down there and seeing what the issues are, we might be able to revisit that in time. But I thought that was certainly worth speaking about. Also, the Local Government Association Ordinary General Meeting was held last Thursday and Friday, which was always a good event to be there. Changed very dramatically from the old days where you used to put a ticket up to vote. Green you got 3 votes, and up yellow you got 1, and all that stuff. It was dreadful. You had a half a day of just motions about trees in the wrong place and all sorts. This time there was 3 motions, 3. And they were very, very powerful motions and extremely well set out, and they got a great response. All were carried, and rightly so. Big difference to the Local Government Association now to what it was, and I think where we're going to see some really good outcomes in the future, and in the way they're going. That's probably enough from me. It's probably too much. But I might ask now if there's any other council members who would like to report on anything at all. No? Well, we might move into our deputations. And our first deputation is a presentation by our own Nigel on the budget consultation. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor Bill, even though the agenda refers to the presentation, it's not my intent to give a presentation per se on the budget. Only to say that that, as you referred to before, the intent of the evening is to hear if there's any verbal presentations. That does not appear to be the case at this stage, but also just to highlight that we have received a number of written submissions. Some of those written submissions contain quite a number of questions and requests. What's happened with those written submissions is they're being referred to various managers in the organisation for comment. Some of the things that have been requested will probably be accommodated already, or might have even been actioned by the end of this year, financial year. but we'll be providing information and the management response in a report at a later date regarding those submissions.
Thank you so much, Nigel. We also received one today, councillors. I think you might have seen it by now, from Wasley's. It's a great submission, but it's extremely long, and it's a huge wish list. But I think they deserve it. They've really put in over there in the last few years, and this submission now will show us what they think where the gaps are. But it's my pleasure now to introduce our first guest tonight for a deputation from our Celtic Music Festival, the Celtic Music Club, or the Irish Club, I think it is, isn't it, Sean? Sean Leedham, representing South Australian Celtic. Is it the Celtic Club or just South Australian Celtic?
Just SA Celtic, yeah. We are involved with the Irish Club in the city.
That's right.
Yeah, so. All right.
Well, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Basically, this is just sort of like a presentation, just basically to introduce myself as well. So I'm Sean. I'm the president of the association, and it's been sort of a 6 to 8 year sort of plan to sort of bring back the Celtic Festival, because the last one was in 2012. We'll get that in a second. But yeah, basically this presentation is sort of just to sort of, you know, bring up the concept, see what council's involvement would like to be, and yeah, hopefully we can bring it back together. And I'll just press that door. Yep. I think we skipped a little bit there. That's all right. So yeah, basically the proposal is to bring back the Kapunda Celtic Festival, and we're hoping to do a full closure of the main street, and we've got a bit of a picture up, which I'll bring up shortly, in regards to where we'd like to sort of close it off, to bring back the original, you know, the way we had the Celtic Festival a long time ago. Because we found that when it went to sort of other locations, the trotting tracks in Hill Street, it sort of went downhill, and the attendance sort of dropped off. So we're trying to keep the festival going for a long period of time. So yeah, so we're proposing to bring to close off the main street and some of the side streets. We'd also like to use the town square in the hall, and also within the town square area, we'd like to do like a beer garden, and this is a very big idea. I know it might not have you know, licensing for that area, so I wasn't sure if that was something that could be done. So that's why I wanted to bring it up. So yeah, so that there's sort of a bit of a demonstration where we'd like to close off. So from South Terrace all the way to sort of Ford Street, and down part of Hill Street, which is before the ambulance depot, so that way they've got full access, and a part of Cree Street, and sorry, oops, I've skipped. I'll go back in a second, but that's sort of what we'd like to do with the beer garden sort of situation, is close that part off, and that's why we sort of wanted to close Cree Street, was because the closure will sort of, the beer garden will sort of go onto that street with temporary fencing. So we've talked to the local hotels and stuff like that in regards to the beer garden, and that would only be introducing things like Guinness and Kilkenny on tap. That's the only reason that would be there, and because it has such a big Celtic, you know, involvement, a lot of people would prefer it on tap rather than from a can. So I'll just go back with that. Yeah. Okay. Yep. So with the event, we would have some advance notice signs, the digital signs. We've got access to those already. So that's sort of the locations where we'd propose to put them. And then during the event, we'd have digital signs at the new truck bypass, you know, sort of enabling people where to sort of make a quicker bypass. Otherwise, it'll be a letter to some of the local businesses and schools and such, and to the locals, just to sort of let them know, you know, our plans on closure, and there'll be a map sort of drawn for the detours. So you've got the big truck detour, and then you've got the heavy vehicle detour, and then you've got the would have an in-town detour as well. So we have gone through extensive planning into making sure that it's a pretty smooth process. And we're also going to have the help of Link SA, and they're going to bring people from Gawler to Kapunda up to 6 times a day. So this will sort of help to, relax people, and they can come and enjoy the event and not have to worry about driving home after having a few Guinnesses. That's not working. Okay, and so basically what we'd like to propose to the Light Regional Council is assistance with the closure of the road. So we have actually got a traffic management company willing to donate their time to close off the road and do all the closures necessary. So we're just not 100% sure in what's required in procedures to sort of close the road apart from the traffic management. So whether there's fees and stuff involved. And then would like to be able to use the town hall and town square. So whether or not the council would like to donate these facilities or come to some sort of arrangement with that, just to sort of help the initial festival, basically. But yeah, so that's sort of the end of my
That's fine, Sean.
yeah.
I think, I'm really very sympathetic to the Celtic Festival, having been the president for many years and seeing some amazing events in this town when we had float parades with 55 floats in them. So it was an event that was really well established over about 40 years in the end. It was the longest running Celtic festival in Australia.
That's right.
It's got a great history and it's got a great culture. I say that in a way that it's different now. I was involved when I was lucky. The Irish music was top of the hit parade almost. We had Irish rock bands here playing and all of that. And it wasn't hard to get a very diverse crowd to the town. From the real oldies that loved the traditional music to the young ones who liked the heavy metal version.
Yeah.
I think it's problematic with some of the street closures there, but they're things that we can talk about at a later date. And we would need to do that at a very early stage too, because street closures are problematic. They are, particularly in towns such as this where it's the main thoroughfare. But it doesn't stop you running events. It's just where and how we do it. So we will need to talk to you and your group. So feel welcome and feel free to give us a call. And we'll sit down with our team and see where it goes from here. But certainly, I really encourage you to keep working at it, because I know you've had this in the back of your mind for quite some time now.
Yeah.
So you're serious, and we are too, to bring this culture back to our town. You've seen the beautiful mural in Hill Street there. Fantastic. I can remember concerts in the hall there where we had Sirocco and bands like that. There was people down the street, they couldn't fit in.
Yeah.
We broke every rule in the book with numbers and so forth, but you could in those days. And I think now we have to be a little bit more careful. But all the same, we've got wonderful facilities here. We've got great hotels that would be right on side. Most of them got the management of them now would certainly support something like this, I'm sure. So come back with a bit of a business plan.
Yeah.
I'd like, elaborating more on what you've presented tonight, and we'll listen to you most definitely.
Cool.
So thanks very much, Sean.
No worries. Thank you for your time.
Pardon me, any questions, councillors? Councillor Connor?
Yeah, how do you get Link SA involved? That's a pretty good coup if you can get them.
Yeah, so basically, I just contact them, just asked them how it works, and they said that we can basically hire the buses through them, like their drivers. So we're just in talk with them with how many times they can do it during the event, basically. So it's just a hiring sort of system. Not at this present moment. We're sort of looking at March next year, but we're just finalising everything. We've had a few meetings and stuff, and we're trying to finalise all our not-for-profit, because our fundings is going to be quite a lot from bigger companies. Rather than sort of relying on the people and, government grants and stuff like that. We're trying to be self-sufficient. So we're just waiting on a few bits and pieces to line up before we can get dates sort of going.
Just a name to put in your notebook. Put down Robert O'Callaghan, Rockford Wines. Give him a call.
question about
You
that.
might be very surprised.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you.
Well, now it's my great pleasure to introduce our dear friends Pip and Leon from from Environmental Copper, who need no introduction to most of us. But you know, it's been a long journey and a very interesting and a great journey. And hopefully, we're getting to a point here now where we're going to be the copper capital of South Australia once again, and maybe get the state out of bankruptcy once again with the production coming on. Thank you, Leon.
Thanks everyone for taking the time to give us a chance to have a chat. We're not asking for anything tonight. Basically, it's just giving you a bit of an update on where we are, where we'd like to go, and also to extend an invitation to elected members to come and spend a bit of time with us at some information sessions so that we can sort of go through what we've done in a bit more detail, give you a bit more of an idea about what we're thinking at the moment and potentially what an operation might look like if we go down that next stage. So just a couple of quick slides just to introduce us again. People might not have had too much of an idea, but basically we've been here since sort of 2017, 2018. We had a Commonwealth grant for $2.8 million. At the moment, our company ownership is put on the screen there. We've got some funding from both Alligator Energy and Thor Mining, who are ASX listed junior mining companies, and obviously our directors and founders. Basically, looking at our key stakeholders at the moment, obviously Terramin Exploration are our tenement holder out here. Light Regional Council are the landowners of the site we'd like to work on. State government owns the mineral rights out there, and we would probably look for trying to get the rights to mine those and pay a royalty. Department for Energy and Mines, obviously they're the regulators that govern everything to do with mineral extraction, and their referral agencies, EPA and DEW out there. Obviously, local Kapunda and regional communities are key stakeholders and beneficiaries potentially of the project and that sort of stuff. We deal with the Regional Development Authority and obviously our founding partners and investors. So basically, company success to date. We've convinced DM that copper in situ recovery is going to be an integral part of meeting the copper strategy of tripling the state's copper production by 2030. EPA and the Department of Environment and Water have worked with us for the best part of 2 years to define a rigorous and ongoing groundwater risk management plan for the regional aquifer and the Light River. And obviously we've done extensive 3D geological mapping to put together an economic copper resource. And we've had an enormous increase from tier one companies, obviously like BHP and Rio Tinto, about looking at what we're doing and the potential to follow Kapunda as a test site for ongoing advances in low impact, minimal footprint mining techniques. Just before I go on to that one, I'll just scoot to this one. Basically, we have completed our first bit of in-ground work, 3 years worth of approvals to do 3 weeks worth of work. That was a success for us. We can have some little show and tells. So basically that's the first bit of Kapunda copper produced since the 1800s from the field trial. We also produced some copper concentrate and some fluid that you can crystallise into copper sulphate. So technically we know the process works now out here. What we need to do is to now do a bit of extra work to figure out, can we produce enough copper and make it cheap enough to make money? So that'll be the thrust of our next bit of work, and I'll talk about that more in a second. I just want to talk about this diagram first. The red circle in the middle is where we modelled the lixiviant was going to reach. The little white dots, both inner and outer, are monitor bores on there, and the graphs show the pH. So we were draining into KPFRT02, so you can see the pH drop, and as the pH dropped, the copper came out in solution. That's now back up to its baseline pre-trial, and you can see that there was no effect on any of the monitor bores out there. So basically the site is back to how it was before our trial. So we had all the fluid stayed where we predicted, and the trial was environmentally constrained. So that was a big win for us, and obviously comfort for the regulators. So talking about what we want to do going forward, our 2024 activities, we want to do what's called a site environment lixiviant trial. So this is putting in some more bores, circulating fluid for between 60 and 90 days, and that fluid will match the existing groundwater conditions out there. Key objective is to prove a successful economic model for copper at Kapunda, and obviously collect some copper-rich fluid for further testing, make some more copper and some more copper concentrate, etc. So options going forward, obviously an economic operation at Kapunda is one of the things we're looking at. That potentially would last for between 12 and 20 years. We're getting more and more confident that there's a lot more copper out there than we originally envisaged. And it would also be a demonstration site for further ISR research and advances in mining technologies. We're currently in discussions with BHP to look at a number of different techniques and take ISR to the next level using some different techniques out there. And obviously it's a proof of concept for outside and communities industry to visit. We think it'd be a great tourism boost for the town to have engineers and scientists from the world over coming to have a look at what we're doing and being at the forefront of copper in situ recovery. It'd be a good tourism site. We can showcase the old and the new style of mining. And we'd like to work in with the council's plan for the Drovers Encounters Experience Centre and have something similar for the mining side of things. So we think that can only be achieved with a mature relationship with council and having a shared benefit for a long-term vision. So to that end, we'd like to suggest that perhaps the council could organise to have some information sessions. We're happy to host them and we can do them either day, night, weekends, whatever fits in with elected members. We can do multiple of them. You don't all have to come there at once. But basically, we'd like to explain the difference between regulatory approval processes, exploration licenses versus mining operations, give you a bit more information on the regulatory framework out there, give you a detailed look at the scope and results of exploration and testing to date, current thinking of what ISR mining infrastructure might look like on the Kapunda mine site for early feedback, and basically talk about some potentially mutually beneficial options for moving forward for ongoing research and exploration, as well as possibly a mining operation. So that's the purpose of this one, is to see whether you have an interest in coming along and getting a bit more information. We think each session would probably take an hour to an hour and a half to do, and we can go through as much or as little detail as you'd like. So basically that's our presentation.
Thank you so much, Leon. These information sessions sound a great idea. And I'm glad you sort of suggested they're about an hour and a half. What would you be proposing in the hall or in the chamber here, or a public meeting?
Oh, look, I think if the elected members here is fine. You know, we have presentation facilities. We can bring in some other bits and pieces that we need to and that sort of thing. So
Yep.
Anywhere where it's comfortable. And obviously we prefer to have sort of probably 5 or 6 people at a time rather than the full council. But you know, we can cope with pretty much anything. But basically what we need is that hour and a half to go through some stuff in detail. You know, a 10-minute presentation, you can only sort of skip over bits and pieces, but it'd be nice to give you the background and particularly have a look at what we think going forward. I think we've been at it long enough now. We've got enough information. We know technically it works. How might it look if we go forward?
I think that's a great idea, and it's a great idea to keep our councillors informed, and we can get out there, we can sell this to our community if we've got the facts and we know what's going on. And the facts are real. This is being well funded by Commonwealth bodies, CSIRO, and all these sorts of people. They don't put money into something that's frivolous. Also, the environmental award that you picked up from then Premier Marshall at the Hilton Hotel that night, when I was told by someone sitting right near you that we didn't have much hope of BHP and all these other companies being there. And guess what? You did. So, you know, we've got a lot of faith in what you've done. And right from the very beginning, having that presence in the town made a heck of a difference. I mean, there's been a lot of opportunities down there in the past to open that mine. They've all failed, because the community did not want it to happen. In this case, it's been quite the opposite in the feeling that I've seen and feel around the town and from those early meetings. We've had no real pushback at all from anybody. But in fact, some of the early pushback that we had, those people now are the biggest supporters of the project once they found out how to do it. And I think having that shop face down there and being available to people to be able to explain how it works was the difference. And we really thank you for that. It was great. It's great to have you in our town and the professional attitude that you have and the experience you have. And what a great thing for our state if this can get up a new way of mining in a environmental friendly way. So thank you. Councillors, are there any questions? No questions? Thank you, Pip, and thank you, Leon, for the presentation. And we'll see you down the street. Now, we've got something very important here too, some dear friends from United Care, Kapunda United Care, which do a mighty job, and I can vouch for the food that they serve because I've had 2 Christmas dinners there. They've got something they'd like to present to us tonight. They've got some issues where their current venue is, and they'll be looking perhaps for somewhere else, and they might need our help to try and find that. And, I think we'll find out a little bit more in a moment. So thank you, Carol, if you'd like to lead on.
Thank you. Mine's just a talk, not a presentation per se.
That's okay.
Thank you for allowing this time. My name is Carol de Vries van Leeuwen, and I'm a committee member at Uniting Care Kapunda, representing fundraising and Open Door. We're a strong group of 17 volunteers occupying different roles, including the 6 committee members who run basically the whole show. Some of you may already be aware that the intention to sell the Uniting Church complex is going to happen, and therefore in the very near future, at least where we are, and probably the church as well, before Christmas will close. So therefore it leaves us a little homeless. So we've taken this decision to rebrand, and our new name will be Light Country Community Centre, and to continue our charitable work as before to increase services. After COVID, a lot of people had lost social connections. So at the time we decided to start Open Door. And as the name suggests, the door was open to anyone who required socialisation or a meal. It's worked very well. In 2023, we provided 995 2-course meals each Friday. And to date this year, our numbers have already increased. Our emergency food relief, which due to rising living costs across the board, is now not just emergency food relief, but food relief. Our figures show that there's a steady increase each week. Last year in 23, we had 330 people, January to March. And this year we've got 405 people, January to March. Christmas hampers alone going from 50 to 70s, supplying people as far away as Robertstown, Saddleworth, Sedan, and all the bits in between. Open Door and emergency food relief are funded by our fundraising endeavours. We don't receive any assistance from local, state or federal governments. Counselling at the moment is a community engagement officer who gives his time by appointment fortnightly, and that started off very slowly and it's now continually growing with more and more appointments. We're in talks with Seeds for the mental health, hoping to secure a grant for a financial advisor for the area, and possibly provide a space for NDIS to take appointments, because we understand that's a problem and a need. We'd like to do cooking seasonally on a budget and small gardening groups to try and help people be a bit more self-sufficient, because, well, the food side of things, prices, etc., I don't think it's going to come down very swiftly anytime soon. We believe that a huge bonus for the area to have these facilities. We are currently looking for a new location so that we can grow as the need arises. With rents being premium in the area, we don't find that we'd be able to justify the fundraising to pay for rent and expenses at the expense of providing food for people in need. Our fundraising activities at the moment include a monthly Angaston market, garage sale for Kapunda, which we organise and run, the Kapunda Rodeo, and smaller activities during the year. When settled and hopefully incorporated, we should be able to apply for a lot more grants. And this hopefully will help along the way. We have previously spoken to the Mayor and Lorinda regarding two at present empty properties, Hill Street and Adelaide Road, but understand they are soon to be used for other ventures. Bearing in mind we have a lot of elderly people on walkers, frames and gophers, we do need to be mindful of the distance to avail themselves of the facilities. So we're asking council basically if it is all possible to give us any assistance to provide a roof over our heads or bring about all these essential services to the residents of Kapunda and the surrounds. So if it's at all possible to come up with some ideas or some places that we can go, it would be really appreciated, not just by Uniting Care, well, what was Uniting Care, but by the community as well. So that's it.
Well, thank you so much, Carol. And you've explained it exceptionally well, and the work you do is really important. I do know that I've had talks with the Trotting Club, and there's an opportunity there, but hearing what you've said about gophers and getting people there would be an issue. There's the men's shed, which may be a possibility that something could be incorporated in there. But I think we've got some smart people sitting around this room, and we'll put our thinking hat on and see what we can come up with as a more permanent sort of solution to what you've got, because we can't lose this valuable service. And now you're putting the Light Country brand on it, it even gives us more reason to make sure that it stays viable.
Well, we wanted that name, so it encompassed all those areas rather than Kapunda.
Exactly.
So yes.
Would it outside the square, would it have to be in Kapunda? It would.
Our core, I think, is in Kapunda.
Sure.
We do get people from those outlying areas, but it wouldn't be enough.
So okay, that settles that.
Yes.
But we will certainly give it a
Thank
great
you very
deal of
much.
thought.
So we
I
are.
really appreciate you being here and telling us this. And the councillors might have some questions. Would anyone like to ask any questions? Michael? Councillor Michael?
Thanks, Mayor Bill. Sorry, perhaps a question first. I missed, sorry, what was the timing of you needing to vacate this property?
We've tentatively been told that we have to be out, it will be before Christmas.
Yeah.
But they're having a church meeting on Sunday, and I think definite dates will be determined on Sunday. But Uniting Care is different to Uniting Church, so we're not privy to that information until they've had their meeting, and then they refer it to us. So I can't give you a totally accurate date.
So in terms of the council turning its mind to what, if anything, it can do, how do we turn that into an action, or is this deputation tracked as an action, or is there a report, or what do we do?
Well, I think that the first thought could be that we come up with any thoughts that we may have of venues that could be available, and one that springs to mind with me as well. And of course, it's another church. Now, I don't know how that aligns with Uniting Care under the brand Light Country. It doesn't. But I think the church at the top of the street, beside the big one that's got the big clock on it, they've got kitchen facilities there, and building over the road, which is, I'd suggest, rarely used. And that could be an engagement that you could.
We have gone down that path.
You have?
Yes. And they are willing to have this, but there are a lot of limitations. And the biggest one is we can't use the kitchen for cooking in.
Oh,
Okay, so,
oh,
um,
oh,
so, so there's hurdles there. They're at the moment meeting their committee to try and iron some of these things out.
could I help in that respect? Because I know some people around the place that.
Well, we'd appreciate any help at all.
If and when you have your next meeting with them, would you be kind enough to invite me?
I would, yes,
And
yes.
I'll have a chat to, you never know. I think that seems like a silly argument. We can't use the kitchen.
Yes.
Can't believe that. We've got to do better than that.
All right,
You know,
well,
we've
thank
got
you very
people that are
much.
starving and you're looking after them. And we say you can't use the kitchen.
That's right.
But nobody
It was strange.
I will sort it out.
Thank you.
Well, any further questions? Oh, councillor Collins?
Just to be clear, so you are talking about the Anglican Church Hall.
Yes,
Because that would, as I agree with you, Bill, that would be a very good
Absolutely
facility.
perfect.
And yeah, so
and it seems, it's probably talking out of school a little, but it seems that the committee's a little divided. And there's one group who we originally met and they said, fantastic, because the hall's not used, you know, almost do what you like within reason, with knowing what we do.
not very Christian of them, is it?
Whereas when we met with the full group, there was another element that I don't think wanted to give up their possession of the church. They were,
To
so
be clear, you'd be sharing it with them. You wouldn't be taking it over, would you? So
they only use it, well, what they've told us is they use it for an animal service once a year, possibly funerals, which we can't decide on. when.
I've been to a few funerals there, but they get less and less because they.
That's right,
That,
that's what
that,
they've
that,
said.
the
And the other was a pancake, a fundraising event, which we'd be prepared to help with anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
yeah,
do
I'm
it.
looking to it as well. I know a few people there, so.
yes, so, all right. Well,
All
thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation and appreciate what you do. Okay, councillors, we move on now to adjourned business, which we don't have any at this point. And then to page 8 or item 8, action items. Are there any items you'd like to discuss on page 6? Page 7? Page 8? Councillor Collins?
Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit slow. So,
All right.
we haven't heard anything more about the sale of the Viterra site. Is that still?
Okay. Councillor Collins? Just Collins.
Through the chair, touch base with Viterra, I think it was last week. The sale hasn't settled. I think the settlement date is the end of this financial year. So essentially Viterra have said they'll let us know once that occurs who the new purchaser is. I'm not sure if I had any information on that. So I only followed up last week and yeah, they said it's hasn't settled yet.
Thank you, Corin. Thanks, Councillor Collins. Anything further, councillors, on that one? Page 7. Did we talk about page 7? And you might note that these action items have gone down considerably to where they were. So obviously the staff are being extraordinarily busy. It's certainly very manageable now. At one stage there, it was page after page. So well done, everybody. Anything on page 8? If not, we move on now to section 12. Nothing under 9, 10 and 11. Section 12 is reports for information. And the first one being our CEO's monthly report there. Are there any questions in relation to that? If not, we'll move on to the Youth Incentive Scheme and thank Lorinda very much once again for getting involved with this and identifying these very fortunate and very talented young people to represent our region and this time even overseas. So it's a two-way street. The families have got to put their hand in their pocket too. It's not just a gift. And these young kids have got to really work hard to get to that level. So it's a win for everybody. So well done, and well done for Lorinda for continually keeping an eye out for applicants. We move on now, if there's no questions, to the preliminary update of the community bus service. And thank you, Pepper, for your input into this. I think we're all pretty much aware and pretty much on the side of trying to get a bus service operating in our region. Certainly from this town in particular, where we've had deputations. I think the report speaks for itself, but are there any questions? If not, we'll move on to the Dutton Park stakeholders meeting, and I think that's another great initiative. And yeah, Councillor Collins?
Just about the bus service.
Oh, yeah.
Reading that report, it just seems to me that a bus service might be a little bit, because no one is using it much, and there doesn't seem to be much demand. But there seems to be a small number in the community that think they thinks it's needed. So maybe a bus service mightn't be the best way to look at it. Maybe maybe another community car or something, because it doesn't seem to be getting used. So, and I was here when that information session, and there was a woman from Aussies, Lynn, I think her name was. Is that right?
Lynette Marker, I think it was.
Yeah, and she was, but it just seemed to me that there's one or two people, and a bus doesn't seem to be the answer to the transport demand or requests that these people are asking to me. And I might be wrong.
There has been a bus service here in the past, and it failed very dismally. It just didn't get the patronage. Starts off okay, then it just dwindles to nothing. And, it costs a lot of money. And we know now, through regulation and so forth, volunteer drivers have to have all sorts of accreditation and everything else just to drive our own little 12-seater. So that just about puts that off the scene as well. So it is a big issue for country towns, and this came up at the conference last week at LGA, and most small towns are suffering from a similar problem. People in the towns want a bus service, but they often get one and don't use it. So I don't know what the answer is. The fact is, at the moment, though, we do have a bus service that goes every day, and we do have health cars that for people who want appointments with doctors and health specialists, that can be arranged. So we're not devoid of anything at all. There's also a shopping bus that goes out every month, and people can get on that for a very cheap rate. So there is some access there, but I don't think it's just going to go away. It's going to be with us for a while. If we can come up with some sort of really good idea, that'd be great, but I don't know what it is. Any further questions or comments, councillors? The Dutton Park stakeholders meeting, I'm really pleased to see this group coming together like this. I think it's terrific. And, we've got such a great asset over there. That whole area, it's fantastic. And most regional communities would give their eye teeth to have a facility like we've got and to have it maintained in the way that they have been too. All the facilities there, our golf club, the football club, the tennis, all of those things, and the harness racing. And talking with them over there on Sunday, hoping that one day we can get some solar panels on the top of that building and get the lights back up there and get the trots back there again at night time. You never know, it could happen. But trotting would have to sort of lift its game a little bit for it to happen. But when the trots were there at night time under the lights, that place was packed, and it was quite extraordinary. And it would be interesting to see if it could be resurrected under the current climate. I have grave doubts about that, because I think the trotting industry in itself has got its own problems, and I think we might just inherit a few. But it's nice to dream sometimes. But having lights around there, irrespective of whether it be for trots, it would open up that area in the centre there for a whole lot of different activities. Councillor Collins, did remember the tractor pool they had there at one stage?
Yeah, I can. But just going on about the meeting that we had,
Yes.
that Dean and Kyan were in attendance. But from that meeting, a few people suggested to me that maybe we could form a committee. Dutton Park is very keen. The Dutton Park committee would be very keen to form a committee, and I think the Harness Racing Club, I've spoken to them, they would as well. So I think if it is to go ahead, I think we may as well because I know in the report it talks about the administration doing a lot of things, but I think if we could, with the administration, at the next meeting, have all the stakeholders there and actually get a committee together, and I think that there's an appetite for it. And, I think that would be my suggestion to do that in the future, and maybe 3 from the harness racing club, 3 from Dutton Park, that being the tennis, netball and football, and maybe a couple from the golf club. And I think it can be driven from there, and also have a council representative, being Dean or whoever, and some of the administration. I think that would be a great help.
Yeah, thank you, Colin. Or perhaps just to move this on, I mean, we don't normally call for motions and information items, but this could well be that if there's an appetite in the room here to see a combined committee formed that would be supported by the council, it wouldn't be bad to see it put it on our books to say that we've supported that. Would I get anyone agreeing to that proposition?
I don't think it's quite there yet. I think Kyron is running it very well, and I think I'm just saying that in the future, I think that would be the way to do it. I think Kyron's right on top of it, and if he gets all the stakeholders together and then we form the committee, I don't think we're quite there yet.
Okay.
For a motion at council that's my opinion anyway. But I think in the
Yeah.
future, I think that would be the model to use. That's all I'm saying.
Get the model right first. That's fine. All right, everyone happy with that? And, yes, it's a great move, a great step forward.
Mr Mayor, I must have missed 12.4. 12.4, I had a phone call from that Freeling Railway Reserve.
Yeah, I think we did skip that.
You skipped it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, you did skip it. I just had a phone call from the developer, Carlo Belperio, and he had a look at the agenda, and he was interested in council's idea for that area. But he said, what is the most important thing he thought to help the town would be a good playground in that railway reserve. And he said, you need to go to tender to get a better price and a better playground, a really good playground. That was his opinion. He didn't get to put it into writing or anything. He just rang me last night. And I think that's a good idea to try and put a playground in that railway reserve. There's plenty of room there, and if we can, I mean, we don't. It'll be just a matter of getting putting out a tender to that. That's the only thing I'm interested in at the moment. I'm not interested in. Well, Kyron probably is, but I'm not interested in the railway. The quantity surveyor cost summary was ridiculous, $2.8 million, and I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on it, but it's just a playground would be a start.
Yeah, Councillor, there is a playground mentioned under the reserve, under the concept design.
Yes, but that could be the main thing to start off with,
Okay.
rather than going to the good shed and stuffing around with putting all new walls and everything. I think that was a good idea of his, that we organise a really good playground there, and that's the centre of the town. And he said, and then then people would go there, and if it's a really good he emphasised that it needs to be a really good playground.
Well, we know how to build them. We've got one here.
Yes,
but
we really do need to look at that, rather than spending massive amounts of money on everything else at this moment. Start off with that, and I don't know how. Do you want? Maybe I could put up a motion. Would that be the right thing or not?
Probably not, but would this gentleman be prepared to send in a note into us? We're recommending that?
Yeah, I'll get him to put it in.
Put it in writing and.
Yeah, yes.
So
but-
the playground here was developed by the Lions Club and under council's banner. Now, there's no reason why something similar couldn't happen down there under the Freeling Rec Park Committee's banner.
No,
If someone's got to take responsibility for the damn thing, that's what happens. You build it, that's all very well, but someone's got to maintain it and take responsibility. It needs to be locals. The
But-
locals
but
need
I
to grab
don't-
hold of it.
I don't think, Mr Mayor, that could happen. They won't
Yeah.
take on anything more at the rec park. I don't know if Megan's
Well,
got
the
any
football club,
ideas.
the
Too late.
Football club have got, most of their players got kids and everything else would love it. But some groups, we're losing that as our communities sort of go different ways. We haven't got those Lions clubs and Rotary clubs and clubs that made these things happen. And we're seeing this by lack of facilities now that
Yeah,
were there before. And it's not fair to the young ones growing up. They're not seeing it, and they should. But this guy's got great ideas and it's terrific, but someone else does it.
also, Mr Mayor, there's things with regard to the planting of trees. The whole design is good, but we just got to start somewhere.
Sure, no, that's fine. But
Okay.
He writes a note and that can be responded to. The staff can have a look at that and see what options that
Yeah.
would be available and
Yeah,
whatever. But I think
Okay.
it's really got to be driven by the community somehow. I might be wrong, but that's how I would read it. But thanks, councillor Lynn. Anything further?
don't miss any more.
Got your back. Stakeholder meeting, we happy with the conclusions of that? If so, we'll move on to the April council meeting at the Hewitt Centre. Report there from Corey. Thank you, Corey, for that, the work you put into collating all of that. I think there's some recommendations later on in the agenda relating to this matter.
Mr Mayor, regarding the April council meeting at Hewitt Centre,
Yes,
we have a very good report here for council, which covers fair amount of territory.
yes,
And
yes.
as a result of it, I would foreshadow the motion that I'd put up. Motion without notice.
Well, I think you've got an opportunity a little bit later on the agenda, councillor.
Yes,
There's a recommendation coming up a little bit later in the
yes,
agenda,
of course, but
which you'll be able to talk to.
I'm just saying that I'm going to do it.
Yes, no, that's fine. That's fine. But I've just been advised that it can be done now if you choose. But it might be an idea to wait for the item to come up on the agenda itself. If you haven't read it, you might. I don't know if you have.
Of course I have. I can do it now, but if it's your preference as mayor to do it later.
No,
I
it's not
will
my
do it
preference. It's your call. But it's going to require a change of meeting practice, and
That's right.
it's sort of a little more complicated. It's not so straightforward as I thought. I thought it was exactly the same as you did, but in talking with Kari prior to the meeting, it's not that straightforward because it's part of our meeting procedures now, and we've got to change our meeting procedures in order to do that, to make any change to having the next meeting at Hewitt in October and some other date.
Well, do you want me to read the,
If you could like to read it out, and I'll take some advice from Kari.
okay?
Yeah.
The motion is that council amends,
We're just going to get some.
Information carried.
oh,
I think
right,
we can do it.
Yeah, so a motion, elected member can put a motion forward at any time, and so that would just be effectively a motion without notice that gets put into the minutes as is, as you're reading it, if you'd like to put it.
can you put it up on the screen?
Mhm.
Would be nice.
That chair, Claudine, the chair. You know, to go with the United Chair. What are the purchases? It's they can't, right?
Do you want me to read it out or it's up on the board?
I think they've. Could you read what you've got there, councillor?
Yes, certainly. The council amends its code of practice for meeting procedures at section 6.2 council meetings to remove the words to be held at least 3 times in the next 12 months, starting October 2023, should be 2024, at the Hewitt Centre.
Thank you, councillor Peter. Councillor Dean?
Order. Is it because this is a change to the code of practice of meeting procedures that require a 2/3 majority? Thank you.
For this to be changed, councillor Peter, it requires 2/3 of the vote, not half, because it's a change of meeting procedures. That's correct, Curry? Yeah. So do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Collin?
Just to have a question, if I may.
Certainly.
So, isn't it if a motion, the effect of which is to amend the resolution of council, then that will have to be a motion on notice?
Thank you. So the original motion was to include the wording into a code of practice. That has actually taken place. So you have to consider the wording. So it's saying to include something in a code of practice to a document, which has taken place. You can't resolve something to rescind or amend if it's already taken place. So it was just to amend a document. That has happened. So now it's to amend the document again.
Can't rescind the motion because it's already happened.
It's taken place. It's not, it's the document.
So is that clear, councillors? That's the motion now, which would change our code of meeting practice to those words there. We can't change it any other way because we've already had a meeting at Hewitt. So we've met that obligation from our existing code of practice. This is a new one. So I'd require a second. I've got that from councillor Collin. Any discussion? I'd like to speak to that, councillor Collin.
I need to say that I thought the reason for having meetings at Hewitt was to have the residents of Hewitt attend, and I don't think any of them were there. I found the microphone and the setup to be poor. The screen, I had my back to it. I found that not very good, and I think we've got a perfectly good chamber here that we should utilise, and I think that we may as well not have the meetings down there, is my opinion.
Thank you, councillor Collin. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Michael?
Thank you, Mayor Bill. I'd like to, with respect to councillor Peter and councillor Collins, speak against this motion. Noting councillor Collins' comments, I think once established with some routine and regularity, I think residents of Hewitt may show or become more aware that the meetings are occurring there. I think the meeting was reasonably well attended relative to the sort of attendance that we get here in Kapunda. And I think we're really providing an opportunity for people to attend. And I think as the ongoing spectre of the town of Gawler's complete waste of time boundary reform proposal continues to evolve, we're making a statement to residents in Hewitt and against certain of the councillors at the town of Gawler who like to remind us of how far away Kapunda is from Hewitt, that we're actually not that far away after all. So for those reasons, and I think Councillor Collins' concerns about the setup of the room and are valid, and their staff have addressed that in the report, and I think those things can be dealt with.
Would you require a quarter of our meetings to be there? Because that's what we're proposing. As a quarter.
With respect to the mayor, I think that's a decision that we made, and I won't be supporting changing this decision.
Thanks, Councillor Michael. Any further comments, councillors, or questions in relation to this?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think when we first initiated, we thought we'd review this in 12 months' time. So I think let's play the 12 months out and see what happens then.
Yeah,
I support Councillor Michael's view.
So yeah, just suggesting let it flow, let the timeline do the 3 meetings and review it. Councillor Dean.
Well, from memory, I think I might have voted against the 3 meetings here. And having experienced the meeting there, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Having said that, I did have some trouble hearing. The acoustics in there is a bit echoey. I'm hoping my new hearing aids might improve that, but that was a disadvantage for me. But I take the point that with the boundary reform issues, there is an argument in favour of us having some meetings. And if I understand correctly, Councillor Bill, you said we've already agreed to review in 12 months. Is that correct?
Well, it was discussed.
And I think if that's the case, we should try it for 3 months, because some of those issues that I experienced, I'm sure could be improved. Certainly the orientation of the room was a serious issue for those people who were trying to see what's on the screen behind them. So I'm tepidly in favour, if I can put it that way. But I think it's got some arguments to continue doing this for at least 12 months, and we'll review it then.
Yes, Alison.
Thank you, Mayor Bill. So I just wanted to say that I'm supporting having the 3 meetings at Hewitt. Let it run its time out. There's always teething problems. Maybe another room, the room where we had our evening meal. I don't know if that could be set up better. I didn't like that you couldn't see the screen behind some of the members, which happened to be the background, this group here. So I think that there should be a better way to set that up, even if it's on a screen, something similar like that. Yes, and the acoustics weren't great, but you've got to try it. So 1 meeting, I'm sorry, I can't can it for 1 meeting. And I agree with Councillor Michael, with all the housing and whatnot being built there. I think we need to show Gawler Council that, yeah, we committed to Hewitt.
I make some very solid points. There's no doubt about that. I found it very difficult from where I sat. And I've got to say that quite honestly. And I think the cost too, when we're talking a couple of $1,000s to have a meeting, I think if that got out of the street, I don't think some of the people were very happy about that. And that I know shouldn't come into it, but money always does. Someone will raise that somewhere and say, God, you've got a purpose-built council chamber and you go and spend $2,000 to have a meeting somewhere else 3 times a year. But having listened to the argument on the side here, I'm warming to the idea of the 12 months. I think as a council, we did say that, and I think we've got to stick to our word sometimes. We said 12 months that we would review it, and perhaps that might be where we need to land. But Councillor Peter, would you like to to close the debate, or is there anybody else would like to make any comment or questions?
Well, Mr Mayor, I was there, of course,
Yes.
and as an observer, my motion without notice for the report, I think, was comprehensive, and the council staff done a very good job. It was disappointing that there were a total of 8 people there. One of them was my wife, and she doesn't come from Hewitt. People were coming and going, so you couldn't say that 8 people installed themselves and sat there for the meeting. I think it was a bit intermittent, and really $6,000 or $2,000 for the first one, and 3 lots of $2,000 is just, as you said, a cost on the ratepayer, and so that the common purse is being asked to do this, and I can't see the purpose of it, and that's why I proposed the motion without notice tonight.
No, we thank you for that. And it's good to have this, this open discussion and open debate, because it is important. It's something to consider. Looking at, the evidence there and the compromise that's been put, sort of is down the centre of both. It's down the centre of us bending the motion to not do anything, but not agreeing totally for this to stand forever. It's saying this would stand for 12 months. That's it. So we would conduct the next 2 meetings, then review it. That's what I'm hearing. That's correct, isn't it? So your motion, although you absolutely put it, that the notion is that the other side is that we would continue with this. But it's not up to me, and I would now ask if anyone else would like to speak on this. Peter's closed the debate. So I might put this to the, that's the motion that we're going to continue with. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is lost. The motion is lost. And we continue with the practice for 12 months. Okay. Call a division. All those who voted in favour of the motion, would you stand behind your seats, please? Yeah. Well, I mean, I have, some grave doubts about this. Now that we've got the technology, there's people watching us at home. We don't get the crowds at council meetings. I don't know if there's any councils in the state are getting any crowds at their meetings at all, simply because why would you need to? And you can sit in your own lounge room and watch that and get up and have a cup of tea when you feel like it. We've got all of that. We've got it being recorded. They can look back on YouTube. Unless you've got something that you're going to be raising yourself as a matter, something that's ultimately important, like the presentations, why would you do it? I mean, I just don't sort of quite understand. But perhaps I'm old-fashioned, but I would just like my home too much. But I don't see it be all that exciting sitting there in one of those chairs all night, watching what's going on here or anywhere else, for that matter. But that's democracy, and we've voted on that, councillors, so we should move on. We're on now to 12.7, councillors. This is the annual business plan and public consultation update. By the way, of course, our hour is well and truly up. That's right. So we're on to the reports for information in the supplementary agenda now, 12.7. Are there any questions that people would like to raise? Councillor, Councillor Simon?
Could we bring forward a matter? This one thing? Okay. Yes.
Is the hour's up, isn't it?
Only just.
Only just, good.
But yeah, let's finish. If there's no questions on 12.7.
Oh, okay. So we don't want any questions on 12.7, in other words? Oh. Okay. Now we move on to an important part of the meeting, of course, the reports for decision. Is there one?
We need to give a recommendation for the reports for information.
Oh, okay. Sorry. We've got a recommendation that the reports for information be received and the contents herein noted. Would someone like to move that way? Thanks, Councillor Dean and Councillor Fabio. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried. Thanks, councillors.
I just, if you can bring forward the confidential session.
Yep. Councillors, I'd like to, I don't think we have to suspend standing orders. I've got a motion on the table that we bring 18.2, I think it's 18.2, Councillor Simon, in the confidential session forward to discuss this now, which will allow Councillor Michael to be able to leave the meeting. He is an important part of this discussion as it's his motion that we'll be discussing. Are we okay with that, councillors? Understand why we're doing that? It's all part of that, Councillor Coleman.
Just a point of order, Mayor Bill. Technically speaking, shouldn't we be bringing forward 18.2, the strategic land information session and the motions on notice?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, so you really need to say all of that.
18.2.
Yeah, and then, yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to bring 18.2 forward, which will allow us to go into confidential to discuss this matter. So I've got a recommendation there, councillors, that under the provisions of the Act, I won't read it all because it's long and tedious, that we go into confidential session to discuss the matter of the strategic land. Do I have a mover for that? Yep. What have I done?
Karen. That's what I thought. I just wanted to check. We need to.
And I need a seconder for that. I think I've got Councillor Michael to second that. Now, all those in favour? Those against, that's carried. So now, councillors, we can move comfortably into 8.2, the strategic land subject.
Just,
Move the confidence party to discuss. Hang on, I'm getting directions. I'm right. 18.2, so we can discuss the strategic land opportunity, which is item number 18.2. And thank you, Megan. I think Megan has got a presentation for us to introduce this topic.
so we need to move in.
Not yet.
We need a mover and seconder to go into conference.
I thought we did that.
We did. So
What are we going to conference before then?
hang on. We currently should be looking at page 50 of the ordinary agenda at the moment, which is the item before us is recommendation 1 and 2 to go into confidence. All we've done so far is brought forward the item. So we would require someone to move that we go into confidence. Councillor Michael.
Page. Are there any questions? If not, there's a recommendation there. Would someone like to move that way? Councillor Dean, someone like to second that? Oh, Councillor Bill, sorry, you made a grow. Would you like to comment on that? Councillor Dean? Put the motion, Councillor Bill. I put the motion. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. What a great outcome that is too. And well done to Brent Mistos too. He's done a mighty job over that period. We're on to 13.2, a proxy member for the Northern York Local Government Association, the old Agartis group. Back in the old days, it was mayors and mayors only, and I felt very upset about that and angry when we lost Richard Michael from that board. Richard was a long-time employee here, I think 30 odd years, and he'd spent a lot of time on that board, and he was an extremely valuable member. But a few of the oldies on there decided they wanted to do something different and only mayors. So see you, Richard. And of course, it's never been quite the same, but there's an opportunity now to bring it back to perhaps get some of that young expertise around the table as well as just the mayors. So we need a proxy for that if council see their way clear to have someone there. Is anybody interested in? Councillor Dean? No. So,
Elected member, or can it be?
yes, it does. There's a position on there for CEOs, and of course Richard attends as a CEO. We're going to Corn next week. Their meeting's in Corn on Friday of next week. But they have it's bi-monthly meetings, so it's not every month or anything else. And but it's regional. It goes around to various councils. Excuse me. No, I'm going. I'll be there.
So Mr. Mayor, this is only when you're not there. It's a proxy position. It's not
right.
an additional position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably well they have now. There are probably more women.
What year was that?
Isn't it?
Back in 78, was it?
Mayor Bill,
That was when I was still beheading queens.
I'd like to nominate our deputy mayor.
So
Only when Bill,
just-
Mayor Bill can't make it, but
Just through the chair to clarify this, Legatus didn't have proxies, which meant if the mayor couldn't attend, no one attended. So it effectively meant that council didn't have a say at a particular meeting. That's all. So the proxy now, it isn't just when Mayor Bill is, it obviously is taking a leave of absence, but for any other reason, if he was just sick on a particular day or couldn't make it for another reason, we now have the opportunity to have a proxy. We don't have to have one, but we have the opportunity to have one. I think that's the important thing. It must be a resolution of council.
it's got to be a resolution of council.
I have nominated our deputy mayor.
Well, that's a good point.
Hello, I've nominated deputy mayor.
I've got a nomination for a deputy mayor. Does deputy mayor accept that nomination? Oh, no, you don't have to do anything.
All right. Yes.
Are there any further nominations? If not, I think you're it, Simon. Hang on. Yeah, we need to vote on it. The motion's up on the recommendations up on the screen. That we appoint Deputy Mayor Simon Zeller as a proxy board.
Can I have a question, please?
Certainly.
How long is that?
The meetings last for probably 3 hours.
The appointment, how long is it? For 3 years, for 2 years, for till I'm not deputy mayor anymore? So what's the?
Pretty much.
Good.
Pretty much. Yeah,
Oh, a couple months, few more months.
You're our representative till the council decides to put someone else there, really. So it's probably whilst you're still on council.
Yep.
At this stage, you're there as deputy mayor, but I would suggest that as a proxy, it doesn't prescribe to be deputy mayor. It can be a councillor, so you'd still be okay.
Comes with a valet service and coffee as well.
Oh, yeah, that's what you have to do for the mayor. Okay, that was pretty, not too much bloodletting there, thank goodness. We've done all that. We voted on that, have we? All those in favour? That's unanimous. Now, 13.3, I think we're up to, that's the extension of the term of the independent case manager. Now, I think anyone who was at that planning meeting last, was it Thursday or Friday of last week, who heard John Stimson speak there for well over an hour to a room full of planners and a few mayors, he was outstanding. And to have someone of his ability in this position, which we have had, I think we're very fortunate. But of course, it's up for renewal now. Thanks, Councillor. Would someone like to second that? Or would you like to speak on it first? No. Would someone like to second the motion? Councillor Simon, would you like to speak on it?
Yeah, I mean, this, John Simpson is specifically well experienced in that, in planning matters. Yeah, I was there. So yeah, I thoroughly support him in this role. He will do a great job. He already has done a great job. So yeah.
Yeah, he'll hit the ground running because he's already there and he's got the score on the board. I think that's a very sound decision, councillors, and thank you, Simon. And thanks for being there too, and both Kyron and Craig. We had a good support for the RDA who ran the meeting. So I think that sort of says that we are prepared to work regionally. Okay, I've got the motion. I need now all in favour or against. All those in favour is carried. Thank you, councillors. Now the meeting at the Hewitt Centre. How are we going to deal with this now? Well, we've already dealt with it, I guess, haven't we? Really, we've dealt with this one.
No.
No?
There's a recommendation.
Okay.
It's in its own right.
There's a recommendation, and rightly so, in its own right at the top of page 32.
I'll move the recommendation, Mr Mayor.
It's Councillor Bill. Would someone like to second that? Would someone to second that? Would you like to speak to the motion?
I think we've covered it pretty well. I think we just need to run it through this year and then review it at the end of this year.
Right, thank you. Simon, anyone else like to speak on the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. We move on to the Torch Road safety audit. Any questions or comments, councillors, on this report? 13.5 on page 33. There's a motion, or recommendation, pardon me, halfway down the page. Councillor Dean, I'd like to speak to that. Someone like to second the motion? Councillor Peter, I'd like to speak to that. Any further comments or questions, councillors? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. It's good to see that's very solid on our agenda. The annual business plan, long-term financial plan and budget process, 13.6, councillors. It's the motion here, or the recommendation suggests that we receive the report titled 24-25 Annual Business Plan, Long-Term Financial Plan and Budget Process as presented at the ordinary council meeting Tuesday 28th of May, that's today. Receives the report, notes the budget process flowchart document as contained in attachment 1. So my reading of that is we're not adopting the budget at all. We're doing exactly just as that recommendation suggests. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, would someone like to move that motion? Councillor Fabio, like to speak to that, Councillor Fabio? Would someone like to second that? Councillor Lynn, like to speak to it? Any further comments or questions, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thanks, councillors. Well done. It's another step in the right direction, getting all our ducks in line up so we can get on with our business. 13.7 is a Regional Public Health Advisory Group Project Officer. We're members of this organisation. We've got a responsibility somewhere along the line. And there's a recommendation about 3/4 of the way down the page. Are there any questions, councillors, or comments? I think you went along to one of these meetings, Councillor Bill, didn't you? Some time ago.
Yeah, I did, Mr Mayor, and we had a flow chart and votings and, motions and stuff.
That's right.
And my comment is that it's really a requirement for the.
I don't think we've got a choice.
So we haven't really got a choice. No. I'm a little bit dubious that we'll actually achieve a great deal out of it. I'm sorry, Craig. But I think we've got no choice but to.
Well, having someone full-time there will make a heck of a difference. I think everybody thought someone else was doing something. And of course, when you've got so many councils all thinking that, nothing gets done. And now it looks like there'll be someone basically driving it, and that should make a heck of a difference. I'm on that group, but we haven't met for, I can't remember. So would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Dean, would you like to speak to it? Yeah, it's something that we've really got a little option to be part of it. It'd be nice to be.
It's for a 0.6 position, not a full-time position, like my reading of it.
That's right. Would someone like to second the motion? Councillor Lynn, would you like to speak to it? Any questions or comments, councillors?
Yeah, I just got a question. So who fulfills the role at the moment?
At the moment, I don't think anyone's filling that.
So our legislative requirement is not done at all. So this is just a new requirement, which is.
My understanding it is, but Craig might be able to put more light on it than I can.
Yeah, it is a new position that was envisaged when the latest version of the Regional Public Health Plan was adopted. It's a combination of a project management plus an administrative role that can assist the 4 partner councils in delivering their key projects, of which there's 3. So it's envisaged as a 0.6 or 3 role in terms of being focused in that space, but we haven't had one to this point.
Yeah, but going back a step, who did this job before?
No one.
But before this, so this is a whole new bureaucracy being created.
No, it's not. It's a role to assist a plan that we already have.
Not the role. I'm talking about like the health plan, the regional public health plan. So before that, we obviously had a health plan before.
Yep.
So
a group of 4 people shared the duties
from this council.
No, from representations from each of the 4 councils came together to, for example, prepare the report that we have to do every
So the previously a staff member from our council was one of 4 which did this.
Yeah, I sat on a committee with 4 of my contemporaries, and we worked through providing reports together, but we realised that there are limitations in what we can do in this space to be as effective as we could be. So when the new one was developed, it was envisaged with a role that's focused, and that's this role, to be able to deliver key projects in a more focused way. So it's a new role, but to deliver a project-based function across the 4 councils.
And the other point 4, is that going to be paid for? Is that going to be a full-time employee down there at Two Wells Council, or?
No, it's a part-time role.
It's a part-time role.
I know this is a part-time role, but to make what 10 is another point 4. Are they because it's all going to be done at Two Wells. Are they going to? This is going to be their sole job as a 0.6, or they're going to be a part-time, and the 0.4 they'll do at the other council.
If I'm understanding the question, any 0.4 they do would be separate with that council, but the 0.6 would be dedicated to this. If there was a role there that was 0.4 to make up a Two Wells wanted to offer, that would be the business of that council.
Yeah, I see there it's run out of their office.
That's right. Yeah, they've offered to base the person there as part of the negotiations around having the role.
What I'm getting at is we might be subsidising an employee, but that's what we're doing.
They may swap that around in time too, to circulate that person into the other councils. But,
the intent is that person would be also going and attending the other council.
Yeah.
But I think what I understand Councillor Collins' point is making sure that they're focused in that role for 3 days a week that they're funding.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, you want to see some outcomes, wouldn't you?
Correct.
Okay, councillors, a pretty exhaustive report. I think we've got to put the motion now. We've got a mover in a second, have we? All those in favour? Those against, that's carried. Thank you, councillors. We move on now to our questions on notice. We have one here from Councillor Bill. Are you happy with that response, Councillor Bill, about the
Yeah,
rubbish
thanks,
collection?
Mr Mayor. Just a comment. I had a ratepayer concerned that they couldn't get hard rubbish
Yeah.
collections, and she said that was all full up. But apparently, according to this, there are still opportunities to get it. So hopefully, she's satisfied. And it's good to see that we've increased from 600 to 800 too.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to see it available down that area also, because it's such a valuable service. It really is.
Yeah.
You know, it's worth every cent that we pay. And we should be able to share that around to all of our ratepayers and not limit it, which it seems to be at present, just due to a budget. Or we're not looking at mega bucks here, are we really, to expand it a little bit?
Well, I do know, Mr Chairman, that for 1,600 collections, we pay 124,000. So it's almost $750 a collection, which I'd put the truck back on the truck and do that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty hefty sort of amount for 1,600 collections, I would have thought.
Okay, well, that's just a question I've noticed. You satisfied with that answer? And now we move into, I think we've only got one more item, which might be item 18.3, which is the CEO's performance review process. No, hang on.
Questions without questions.
Oh, pardon me. Questions without notice at the top of page 48. Are there any questions without notice? Councillor Ellison.
Thank you, Mayor Bill. Just a question going back into around 2019, going back to Torts Road. So it was in the strategic plan that it was going to be bitumised up to Kangaroo Flat, and it only ever got bitumised up, I think, just before the train line. So I was just wondering why it didn't get bitumised, that final part. And this is going back a while, just that I've had a few people speak to me about because of the state of Torts Road. And looking back through the minutes, they've found where it stated that, yeah, it was going to be bitumised to Kangaroo Flat Road, which hasn't happened. So I just wanted to report back to him on that. And that's a question for me.
Advice on that?
I'm happy to answer the question because I can provide some very detailed advice around it. Elected members may recall we had the accelerated infrastructure program, which Torts Road actually formed part of. That was included in the accelerated infrastructure program prior to any deeds being signed for Roseworthy. So again, and I think I've mentioned this a number of times, the choice for council was, do you spend the money or do you wait for the developer to spend the money? It was very clear that the elected members were comfortable with letting the developer spend the money. Okay. So as such, the road will be maintained in a sealed condition. That's currently council's resolutions that it has made, and it's made those resolutions by excluding Torts Road from any programs. That's sort of where it sits. And obviously, in terms of Megan's report, if elected members feel that we should be investing money, then they can motion otherwise.
So just further to that, and what happened to that money that we didn't spend on that part? Where did that go?
The money remained within the accelerated infrastructure program, and just reserve roads were included in it. So the program was basically, I remember it was I think it was $16 million program in total. No, it was less, more. Yeah. There was a variety of components of road, stormwater, footpaths, etc. So it was all just simply done within that program, and that I think there's a report that's reconciled all of that.
I suppose they didn't then contemplate the amount of those big trucks that are ripping it up at the minute. So that leads me to my next question about grading. Have we got both graders going at the minute? And when might they be back down our way?
sorry, through the chair. Torts Road should be being done soon. Torts Road, sorry, the grade is actually in the area at the moment. And I believe Torts Road is next on its list.
So is that what, in the next month,
Oh, next couple of weeks.
next couple of weeks?
Yeah.
So are we using,
good
we've got
current-
2 graders, haven't we?
We do, but we have one this side, one that side of the council
Right.
area.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thanks, councillor Allison. Anything further, councillors? If not, we'll move on now to our next item, which is under confidential, if I recall. Oh, pardon me, motions without notice. Do we have any motions without notice? We had a motion on notice, which we've dealt with. So now we can move on to the next item, which is our confidential items. First one being the Rosebery Water Scheme. There's a recommendation at the top there that we move into confidential session. Would someone like to move that way? Thanks, Councillor Lynn. Someone like to second that? Councillor Dean, would you like to speak to that? Like to speak to that, Dean? No? Any comments in relation to that? Otherwise, we'll put the vote. Councillor Collins?
Why does this all have to be in confidence?
Why?
Because I know this probably shouldn't be, but I think we're going to have to, because I've been hearing some quite, before this report came out, I'd actually heard that this was not going well financially. And I think that for council reputation, we might want to actually look at getting a report out to say where we are, and not going into confidence now is probably not the right way to do it. But I do think that the constituents have got a right to know, and there are rumours going around that it's worse than probably was not good what you're reading in this report. But so I think we really should consider writing a condensed report for the public to digest this, because if you're hiding things for too long, it doesn't look good when it does come out. And I think if we can drip out bad news slowly rather than because people are talking about it. So
I think senior staff members here will know that I'm totally opposed to confidential sessions and confidential resolutions, simply on the basis that you're talking about, Councillor Collins. There are times when it's necessary, when there's people's names being put in there and there's something that is absolutely commercial in confidence. But many times they're borderline issues, and I think when they're borderline issues, I think the community have the right to be able to understand and know what these projects are about. We've got nothing to hide. In fact, I am so proud of what's happening with this water scheme and where we're up to. I'd like people out in the community to be able to read that report, and I think the first thing they do is say, that's great. They might not be happy with the process of the funding area of it, but the rest of it, I think, the council would get a lot of kudos. So I don't see an issue with it, but I think in this case, I'd go with what's in the agenda tonight. But I think in future, I think we should really have a serious look at what goes into confidence and what doesn't. But again, it's up to your discretion, not as elected members, whether this does or not as well.
Yeah, through the chair. So there's probably 3 dot points that are key to the information report there. So it's the last 3 dot points in the report that I would be having regard to in terms of the recommendation there, because if the council chooses to go down those paths, by releasing this information, it might prejudice the council's commercial position to negotiate with I guess, the 2 partners that it's entered into contracts with. And in one case, it could prejudice the council's position with entering into new deeds of agreements with developers that haven't entered into agreements yet with the council.
Thank you, Corin. I think that's fair. I think each of these has got to be taken on its own merits, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think you misinterpreted what I tried to say. I'm saying that I think we should be releasing some information about this. Yeah. I'm agreeing this is in confidence. I know most of it should be. I've got no problem with that, but
a report.
I think something that should go out for the public to digest.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that would be a very sound sort of thing for us to do. People have the right to know, And they don't need to know that the bottom line and every iteration of it, but they need to know what we're actually doing. So I've got the recommendation now.
Just a query on that, on Colin's point, I think it's a good point, but how do we do that? How do we choose what is released? Is that, and how do we actually then say, this is the information we want to release, and how do we get approval to do that?
We have to rely on the staff
Yeah.
to base on their.
Well, I understand that, but is there some legality or the way we can do it?
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea, but.
Yeah. Oh, it makes sense. I don't think anyone is comfortable with talking about things in confidence, behind your hand. I mean, we're not early in that business, but as Kyron rightly said, there are commercial aspects of some of these major contracts that we can't get in dispute with. Otherwise, we'd find ourselves in deep trouble, and contracts and works that get held up exponentially. So anyway, well, can we get back to this recommendation? Do I have a mover or a seconder? I can't remember where we're up to. Any further questions or comments? If not, we'll move the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? Councillor Dean, you're in favour? Right. No, I didn't see it. Sorry, I'm blind as well. A few problems tonight. Okay, thanks, councillors. That's carried. We move now into reports for information. What do we? Yep. 18.